Welcome to the Lawson Brothers podcast. My name's Sam.
My name's James.
We're excited to be here today, aren't we, James?
Let's do it.
Looking forward to a good conversation. Good morning to you, good afternoon, or good evening. I don't know when you're listening to this.
Whatever time of day, wherever you happen to be in the world.
I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
It's what, 10:30 on a Tuesday?
10:29.
10:29.
May 2nd.
Close enough.
10:30. Yeah, it is close. It is close. This is, what? This is episode 14 of this?
I don't know.
This says down here?
It's been a while.
That's what we've written.
It's been a while.
We've got a few more weeks, and then we're going to take a break for the summer. Isn't that right, James?
Yeah, you want to talk about that for just a second?
Sure.
So, yeah, game plan. Originally, this thing was game planned to run to Easter, just kind of as a countdown to Easter.
Right.
But you and I have been having so much fun with it, we decided to keep it rolling.
That's not.
No,
well, that's not why we're keeping this going.
We're having fun though. I'm having fun. Yeah.
Braden seems to be having
Braden's
fun.
having fun. You know.
Seems like
it. It's what he says, at least. It's what he says. But anyway, so game plan now. We're gonna lead up to Memorial Day.
Mm-hmm.
Are we releasing a podcast on Memorial Day?
It's not coming out that week.
It'll be the week before Memorial Day, but the last one. Okay. Okay.
There we go.
So the last podcast will come out the last week of May.
Yep.
Someday that week, the last week of May.
Yep.
And then we're going to press pause for the summer because we've got, a busy summer with Boys State and Bible school and youth ministry stuff. And you're leading worship at a couple of camps throughout the summer.
Right.
And so summer gets crazy. I think we get a little beach trip in there at some point in time. I'm pumped about that. Where are we going? We're going to Fripp Island.
Fripp Island.
Sweet.
Fripp Island.
Sweet.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
We rented a golf cart the other day.
When?
Me and Tara did.
Rented one here?
No, for Fripp Island.
What?
Yeah.
You went ahead and rented one?
Yeah. We got it booked.
Oh, you're talking about.
I don't have it now.
That's what I thought. I was like, why did you rent a golf cart now for Fripp Island like 2 months from now?
No. Dude, let me tell you a quick story. One time when I had just gotten my permit, we were at Fripp Island in the summer.
Yeah.
All right. And me and Dad and Grandpa Jones were on the golf cart.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
And Dad's letting me drive. I just got my permit, so I'm pumped. And I had one speed at that point in time, and it was fast. And so I'm driving this golf cart, and we're coming off. There's like the main road of Fripp Island.
Yep.
And then there's all these little like side roads, and I think we were on like Dolphin or Wahoo or one of those little side roads, and I come like peeling around the corner, like onto the main road, and this person honks, and it's Grandma.
Oh,
and she's honking at
Grandma
me.
Jones?
Yeah. She's like flying. She's flying down the main road.
She flies everywhere she goes.
And she almost ran over us on a golf cart.
Dude, what's ironic about the women in our family is that every single one of them will criticize the men for driving slow or fast.
Yeah.
Either one. But every single one of the women in our family, except for our sister Emily, drives like a maniac.
I love that story Grandpa tells about Grandma when they were driving somewhere. I don't remember where they were going or what exactly happened.
What?
But Grandpa said that Grandma just started beating on the dashboard, yelling, Bill, 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 Bill. And she's beating the dashboard.
That's crazy. I will still
Grandma
be.
drives fast.
Who?
Grandma.
Oh, yeah,
Grandma
she does.
drives fast.
But mom drives fast too. Didn't Mom get like a warning the other day or something like that? She was so mad she hears us.
She did. She got pulled over the other day.
She did get pulled over the other day.
Do you remember? Were you in the car with her the day that she got pulled over in downtown Pickens?
No.
Okay,
No.
so it was on the way to school. Maybe you had to have been in the car. Maybe she had just dropped you off and was taking Emily or something.
It's also possible that I don't remember that.
Well, anyway, it was one of those days like she was taking two of y'all to school, and I was going with Dad to the high school. And we're driving. Like there's that dip on Highway 8 going down in front of where there's a new Starbucks there now. It used to be on the left.
In Pickens?
It was the awful waffle for a little while.
There's a Starbucks there in Pickens?
Right. Yeah, where it used to be Verizon. Before that, it was Burger King. Now it's Starbucks.
Really?
Yeah. So it was Burger King, then
need to go back
Verizon,
to our
then
hometown.
Starbucks. Anyway, there's that dip. Highway 8 goes down.
Main Street isn't Main Street anymore.
And then you go up towards Main Street, right? in the bottom of that dip, Mom's blue Toyota Sienna minivan is pulled over in the center of the road.
Oh,
she's
gosh.
in the center, the center, the turning lane, if you will.
Yeah.
And she's getting, she's getting a ticket. And Dad and I are coming down the hill from our house, going towards the high school. And Dad goes, "Oh, look, there's your mom getting pulled over." And we ride by. He doesn't stop. He just waves at her on the way by and just keeps on going to the high school. This time she was mad because Dad didn't stop. He just waved at her and kept on going.
Have you ever been pulled over?
Twice.
Twice? For speeding?
Once for speeding. And once for rolling through a stop sign. No, I'm sorry. I've been pulled over 3 times. Twice for rolling through a stop sign.
Twice for rolling through a stop sign?
Yeah. I've never gotten a ticket though.
Really?
The first time I got pulled over was like Tara and I had gone to see Cars 2.
Good movie.
In a movie theater. Like
whatever you do,
we were in
do not
eat
the pistachio.
We were in college and we'd gone to see Cars 2, and so I dropped her off at her house, was heading home. It was probably like 11 o'clock at night. And I was passing the Awful Waffle in Pickens, and I got pulled over, and I pulled over in their parking lot, and the guy comes up behind me, and he was like, "Excuse me, sir, have you been drinking?" And I was like, "No, sir, I've just been to see Cars 2." And he like shook his head, and he was like, I know, right?
He asked for your man card right there.
But I don't know what he didn't give me a ticket. I was like, I don't think he expected that answer, and I hadn't been drinking.
All right, so
have you been pulled over before?
I got pulled over one time. Only once. And it was after prom. I think it was my senior year of high school. We had finished bowling.
Okay.
And I was pulling out of that parking lot.
Okay. I've never heard this story.
It was on 123 where 93 crosses into 123.
Yep.
Kind of right there beside the Premier Theater. And there's a red light. There's a 3-way intersection. And the bowling alley, that parking lot, you turn where you pull out of the bowling alley parking lot, you turn right to head
towards... 123 and Highway 8, not 93.
Okay, yeah, Highway 8. And it was close. Yeah. I was halfway there. Halfway right. I turned right out of that parking lot.
Okay.
And proceeded to get pulled over. Okay, so I get pulled over in the parking lot, and I pull over, and the cop, police officer, he's talking to me. He's like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, your lights are off, and you pulled out in front of a red light. Like you turned right in a red light with your lights off. Are you all right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm totally fine. I'm totally fine." I turned my lights on and that sort of thing. And I was just like, we're leaving bowling, and like I'm headed home. And this story isn't going anywhere further than this right here. But he was like asking me, "Sir, have you been drinking tonight? Are you all right?" All this stuff. And I was like, "No, I haven't. I'm great. I just didn't turn my lights on, and I turned out in front of a red light." So if you don't want to get pulled over after prom, probably turn your lights on. Probably turn out when the light turns green. Anyway, that's the only time.
Follow the rules of the road.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. That's a bad story, but that's the only time I've ever gotten pulled over.
Not bad.
Got a question for you, James. This is kind of a funny question.
Okay.
I thought about it this morning as I was doing some reflection.
Okay.
Right.
It's always dangerous when Sam starts thinking,
When I start thinking, I was reflecting in the bathroom.
That's literally what
in the bathroom. Yeah. It's a great reflection place.
That's great, Sam. Thank you for that.
Great reflection. Literally, because there are mirrors in bathrooms, but also, there aren't many other
All right, just ask the question.
The bathroom
Stop, ask the question.
It's
Stop
peaceful. It's peaceful.
Ask the question.
You know what I'm talking about. It's a peaceful place.
Just ask the question.
The question was this.
Before you say something, Braden's got to edit out.
If I could have one conversation over dinner with any character from a movie, what would it be? Denzel. Braden says Denzel from Training Day.
That's a good one.
That's sick.
Denzel from Training Day.
So James, I'm asking you, and then I want you to ask me because I haven't thought about it yet.
Okay. If I could have dinner with one character from any movie,
not the actor or actress,
no, the character,
themselves from his or herself from a movie. Isn't that a good question?
That is a good question.
Curious to know what you think.
How do I want to answer? Do I want to answer this question seriously, reflective?
Don't do serious. Don't do serious.
Think it. I know. I'm just trying to think. Like who would be an interesting character to conversate with over dinner?
To conversate, converse.
Conversate.
No, nobody conversates. Nobody conversates. You converse.
That's probably not a word.
Conversate? Oh my word.
Hey,
to conversate.
How about that?
I thought it was converse.
Hey, this is the same thing.
Like to converse over dinner?
Same thing. Either way.
What do y'all think? Meredith, you asked for another comparison question. Is it conversate or converse, and why? Which one do you prefer? All right, James, what's the answer to your question? Any movie character that you would share a dinner with?
Movie character. So not just movie character.
Movie character.
Okay,
Yeah,
movie character.
yeah.
So not like TV shows.
I mean,
just movie character.
TV.
No, just let's
do movie, and then let's do TV. Let's do TV after that.
That's
I know who I'm going to have a TV conversation with over dinner with.
Movie conversation.
Yeah.
I want to say Boba Fett.
Boba Fett. Oh wow,
it's kind of nerdy.
All right, open that up.
Because he's the most fearsome bounty hunter in the galaxy, and he's the worst used character in the Star Wars universe.
Okay.
I mean, he shows up twice, and then he ends up getting defeated by an accidental blow from a blinded Han Solo and eaten by a Sarlacc.
Okay.
You know, it's like how does that feel, Boba Fett, to be the most fearsome bounty hunter in the galaxy, and you smack into a side of a skiff in the desert and fall into a Sarlacc pit. I know, right? I know.
Nerdle. Meow, 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 meow.
All right, what's your answer?
I'm gonna respond in the Star Wars world first, and then I'm gonna give you my legit.
No, give me the legit answer.
Legit answer.
Yeah.
I think I have to go with Benjamin Franklin Gates from National Treasure, Nicolas Cage.
Oh, that's a good one.
I think that dinner with him would be fascinating.
All right, let me throw you another one. Indiana Jones.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That'd be a good one.
That's a really good one.
Did you know that you remember the old cartoon Chip and Dale?
Chip and Dale?
The two little
No.
Are they chipmunks? They're chipmunks. They're little chipmunks. One of the two chipmunks is actually dressed like Indiana Jones.
Oh, really?
And the other one is dressed. I think he's dressed like Ace Ventura. Is he not? Didn't Ace Ventura wear the Hawaiian shirts and all that? Yeah. So one of them is patterned after Ace Ventura. The other one's patterned after Indiana Jones.
Okay. All right.
Little trivia fact for you today.
All right. This is a funny question.
Okay.
You might not even. You're gonna hate thinking about this.
Okay.
What movie character would you deem worthy to take Tara out to eat?
None of them.
If there's one, good.
None of them.
Good answer.
That's a stupid question.
Good answer.
Who would you like your wife to go on a date?
No.
That's a stupid question.
I'm just wondering if there's a manly That's a dumb question. I don't know. That just popped out of my head.
What are you talking about? What are you thinking?
You answered well.
Yeah.
You answered well. Dude, I got to say Daniel Craig would also be pretty cool to have.
James Bond.
I know.
Bond.
Daniel Craig,
Yes.
James Bond would be pretty cool to have dinner with.
That would be cool.
Too
bad he didn't make it out of the last installment.
He did not. Tony Stark would be fun.
He didn't make it either.
To share a meal with. All my characters that I love are dead now. Okay, TV character that you would love to see a movie with.
See a movie with?
And
Bluey's dad.
Bluey's dad?
Bluey's dad.
I wasn't ready for that.
Funny? Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
He's just funny. Bluey.
What's his name? Do you remember?
I don't know. Dad. They call him Dad.
He's good at freeze tag.
He's just funny. Braden, have you ever watched Bluey? It's an Australian kids TV show, dude. It's hilarious. My brother-in-law actually introduced my kids to Bluey before he even had kids. Like he already knew about Bluey before he had a son, which is phenomenal. And he was right. Bluey's great. Bluey's the TV show that adults like to watch too, mainly because Bluey's dad's hilarious.
Yeah, this is
Bluey. That's like the dad's line is like, "Oh man, man."
All right, I think
that's great.
What did I say to see a movie with?
TV show, yeah, the TV show character you'd want to see a movie with.
TV show character that I'd want to see a movie with.
Yeah,
dude, I think I got to go King Julian from Penguins of Madagascar. King Julian, what are you doing, man?
That's a movie. It's a TV show.
No, it's a TV show.
That's true.
King Julian watching a movie or Mort.
Yeah.
Mort. What?
Hey,
Shut up a little.
Did you know there's a new Guardians of the Galaxy coming out?
Yeah, it's coming out like this Friday, I think.
Yeah, I'm pumped about that.
I'm really excited. Who's your favorite character from Guardians of the Galaxy?
Groot.
Dude, Drax. Drax is.
Groot's funny. I like the rabbit too.
Rocket.
He's not a rabbit. That's what Thor calls him.
They also call him Ratchet too. Ratchet. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, I'm stoked about that. Have you ever watched all the Marvel movies in order from like the viewing order.
I'll be honest, I did not even realize that they all like linked together until like Infinity War.
Okay.
Because I remember watching Infinity War being like, I have no idea. Like, who are these people? And it was the Guardians folks. And I was like, who are they? Where did they come from? And so then I had to like backtrack and watch those stories. And I was like, oh, and like as I'm watching it in reverse order, I'm like, oh, there's Thanos. He's in this movie, and it was interesting to see.
If you ever get a chance to do it, like start with, you can pull it up on the internet, the actual viewing order. Because right now there's like 4 phases of Marvel that are kind of complete, and they're still working. I mean, they're venturing into a whole new world of the Marvel universe right now.
Multiverse.
But the rhetoric, the overall storytelling of the Marvel universe is brilliant.
It really is.
If you've never been able to watch it from like start to finish, start with like Captain America, and then I think the second movie is Captain Marvel, and you watch them through, and it is brilliant.
It is
how they tell the story and develop.
What do they call those? Like Easter eggs? Like that link movies that seem to be unrelated, but they link them together in ways that are really, really cool.
Well, yeah. Like there are a bunch of Easter eggs throughout the Marvel universe, and then they really started, in my opinion, running even further with Easter eggs. Like whenever they started doing like the Marvel TV shows, and putting those on Disney Plus. Now some of those are better than others.
Which one's your favorite?
Which of the TV series?
The TV series.
My favorite, Loki was great.
Loki's good.
I really liked Loki. I thought Hawkeye was really fun. Good story.
Did you like WandaVision?
Loved it.
I did too.
Loved Wanda.
It was so weird. Like the first like 5 or 6 episodes, and then after that, it was like, oh, I see what's happening.
Have you ever watched the Easter egg videos from like, I think it's called Real Rock Stars? Rock Stars.
Is that a YouTube channel?
Yeah, it's a YouTube channel, but there are probably people listening to this that know who that is. But it's a great little source to pull Easter eggs. But speaking of Easter eggs, the Disney Pixar animated movies all reference
each other.
And have you ever heard that before?
Yeah.
Like they're like picture frames on walls. They're like different Easter eggs throughout those movies. So if you've never dived into that world before, that's pretty cool.
Fascinating.
It's fun. Yeah. What's your favorite Disney Pixar animated movie?
Toy Story.
Toy Story?
I like Toy Story.
Just the first one?
Yeah, I think
or
so.
all of them?
Probably the first one.
I've never really been a fan of Toy Story.
Really?
I think I need to watch them. I don't know that I've really watched them.
Yeah, Toy Story's good. I like
Remember me.
Coco's good. Yeah. I really like Moana. Or as Judah calls it, Moana.
Moana.
Well,
that's a great one. You watched Encanto?
Nope.
That's a good story.
That's the Bruno one, right?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Let's talk about Bruno. I think my favorite Pixar, Cars, hands down, is my favorite.
I thought you might say Cars.
Close second is Ratatouille.
That's a good movie.
I love Ratatouille. Music's great.
That ride at Disney is awesome.
Ratatouille ride?
Yeah. Well, a lot of fun.
Maybe one day I'll be able to ride it.
Maybe one day.
There's some.
Is Frozen Disney Pixar?
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Frozen 2. I like Frozen 2.
Frozen 2 is so much better than the first Frozen.
He's hilarious.
He is.
He's hilarious.
I cackled watching Frozen 2 in the theater.
Yeah.
That's good. Died laughing. That's a funny story too.
Judah loves Frozen.
Frozen 2 is great. Some of these Disney movies, and we can kind of venture into what we were kind of wanting to talk about today if you want to. Some of these Disney movies have some pretty deep meanings to them.
They do. They really do.
Like there's some life lessons kind of integrated through some of these stories.
This is not necessarily what we were going to talk about today, but this made me think of, it's related, I guess. When you're talking about the Marvel universe and the writing of the Marvel universe and how everything builds and is interconnected, that made me think about Scripture.
Yeah.
And how it's not just a collection of it is a collection of individual books written by different authors over a period of, 1,500, 1,400 years, but it's one story. And, you read Exodus and then you read Hebrews and it's like, wait a minute, these two narratives are really, really, really connected. And I remember being, I don't know, late middle school, early high school, when that really clicked for the first time that, from Genesis to Revelation, there's one overarching story. There's one overarching theme. I remember, I think Louis Giglio called it the red thread of redemption that runs throughout the whole Scripture.
Yep.
I remember seeing that for the first time and being like, oh my goodness. And it was a similar moment when I was like, oh my goodness, the Marvel universe is all connected. Obviously, that's a much, less impactful reality, but seeing the whole Scripture from Genesis to Revelation as one whole, it really changes how you read the Bible.
A very interesting conversation that one of our professors led in one of my classes in college was the fact that literature that has trends has kind of lasted through time and through history.
Yeah.
The stories and the plot twist and the drama in them are not original pieces of drama. They're all connected to and they come from stories that are in the Bible as far as like, deaths and families, as far as tyrannies and people rising up and trying to take down like there's like the best storytelling through movies and stuff. Like every movie, if you think about it, what does it end with? Like a redemption story.
Some sort of redemption story.
Some sort of like savior, some sort of hero.
Yeah.
And people are wired to be connected to those kinds of stories.
Yeah.
And so the professor that I had in this conversation, he was making the case for the fact that if we want to read more stories like that and even have ways to understand history, that we should really glean a lot from the Bible and the storytelling, because the world, creatively, we've talked about on this podcast, the creativity that the church brought forth in the world was at one point top tier, the standard, but also storytelling based on legitimate history from the Bible has dictated storytelling in the 21st century now. Because
that makes sense. I mean, if all truth is God's truth and God's put this desire for eternity in our hearts, like it says in the scriptures, then that to me, that's why when you see those scriptural themes that are anchored in the truth of God and who God is, it's why it resonates with us, whether we know God or not.
Right.
That theme of, somebody rising from the ashes and the redemption of something that's broken, or the underdog that, overcomes. That's all biblical theology. And when you see that lived out, it just resonates with something in our human experience. And, I remember when I was growing up, one of the big, literary series that came out was Harry Potter.
Oh yeah.
And I remember like all the and Braden, you probably remember this too, all the firestorm around Harry Potter. Oh, it's witchcraft. If you're a Christian, you can't let your kids read that. It's going to lead into the occult and all that. And, our mom is an English teacher. So she, was not necessarily afraid to let us read and explore the literary world. And so, I got to read Harry Potter growing up, and I loved those books.
Yeah.
And I remember getting to like when you finally read the end of the story, it's like J.K. Rowling's not a believer, I don't think, but that story of Harry, yes, it's wizards and witchcraft and wizardry and all that, but the theme, you have this character who comes from what seems to be nowhere, and there's this sacrifice of love that makes his life possible, and then he fights for what is good and what is right, and eventually lays down his life for the sake of his friends, and then he resurrects to defeat evil in the end and to usher in a new world. It's like, what is that? That's the biblical story,
right?
And so like I just think that's fascinating that someone who's far from God wrote this series of books that the whole theme is literally just lifted from the pages of scripture.
That's great.
And the world's like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, this is what we need, you know? And I think that's fascinating. In the context of this discussion about J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter, can someone who doesn't know God be used by God to ultimately show the beauty and the glory of Christ? You want to go for? You want to respond? You want to respond to that first?
I'll respond first.
You respond first,
sure.
and I've got some thoughts too. So.
Sure. I'll respond with a question first. Is God sovereign?
Hey,
is he sovereign?
Define sovereign.
I mean, powerful overall. I'm pulling that principle from Psalm 139, 13 through 16, that our days were written before us, our time, as we were being knit together in our mother's womb. New Testament principles, God's overall, through all, in all. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's Genesis. Revelation says, I'm the Alpha and the Omega. So he's clearly overall, all powerful in everything, working through all things. In Romans 8:28, God's working together for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. At the exact same time, I'm going to say this as well, and I believe this wholeheartedly. And this is another question: did God use Pharaoh in Egypt? Absolutely. I think you can totally make the case that God used the city of Jericho, and heard some really interesting perspective on the fact that there are things about God that we cannot understand, and God being a wrathful God, being one who's not just like a patty cake God, right? Sometimes some of these historical events are tough for us to understand how God, being rich in mercy, good, kind, loving, patient, can literally kill off people groups for the sake of his will. And also, if he's created people to function in certain roles, this is just me personally, this is my own belief based on the sovereignty of God. I absolutely believe that his plan is so much bigger than what I'm capable of understanding. Coming from Psalms, his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. His ways are higher than our ways, and better. And so, do I understand how he can use people that do not maybe evidence or personify the fruits of the Spirit?
Sure.
No, not entirely. I don't understand everything. I can't fathom all of that. But do I believe wholeheartedly that God uses any and everyone to accomplish his will? Yes, because there's not a plan B.
Yeah. That's an interesting question. I love the question. And I think, you hit on the key that God is sovereign. Romans 8:28 is really clear that in all things God works. And I think also, this idea, I think I said it earlier, that all truth is God's truth. Because ultimately, like what is the highest form of truth? Well, it's God. Like all truth finds its source in God. And so if it's a theme of redemption or a theme of restoration, a beauty from ashes, these ideas of deep truth, like they ultimately all find their source in God, wherever they come from in this world. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so, of course, like God, every good and perfect gift comes from God.
Yeah.
There's this idea in the scriptures that emerges of what some people have called common grace, that the fact that we all have breath in our lungs, that's a gift from God. And so there's, an experience that is shared amongst all humanity, that our very lives are sustained by God. So anything good and beautiful and helpful and hopeful that we create ultimately is a gift from God. So I would say, yeah, absolutely. People that don't know God can 100% be used by God to paint a picture of who God is and his beauty, his majesty, his glory. And like you said, we see that in the scripture. I think about a guy like Pilate, who simply wanted out of the narrative. But he was used by God to lead Christ towards the cross, which scripture is really clear was the plan of God from before the foundations of the earth. And Paul looks back at the cross and says, hey, it's foolishness to those who don't believe, but to those who know God, it's beautiful. And it's like that tension of God's using broken people to accomplish his sovereign plans, ultimately to display the beauty of redemption. Like that's powerful. And if he's God, absolutely that.
Yeah. It's interesting too. And I was reminded as you were talking of Proverbs 8, where wisdom is personified as a woman for a little while.
Yeah.
But then at the end of that chapter, wisdom we see is actually, you can make a very strong case for the fact that wisdom is Jesus in that chapter. And it's talked about in that chapter that wisdom was there from the beginning of creation alongside God, the Father. Pull wisdom, pull the idea of wisdom back out from the book of James, where we're told to ask in confidence for it, and God will give wisdom. So if Jesus is wisdom from book of James and Jesus is wisdom, Proverbs chapter 8, like when we're asking for wisdom, we're really asking for more of Jesus himself, which is just comforting to me, because there are things like in this world that we're not called to understand or given the ability to understand. But what I know personally is that my relationship with Jesus is vertical, and it's between me and Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And has God used John Mayer to break my heart for the gospel even more?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And he ain't the only artist that has impacted me, because think about if everybody was the same and if everybody was on the same page or something, like our awareness of things, if everything was easy in life, our awareness of what is true and good would just be so far less than it is.
Yeah.
Because we are put through situations.
And there's something that's powerful.
There's
something that's powerful when, as followers of Christ, we're able to use a kind of a pastoral word, exegete the world. And what I mean by that, when you talk about exegeting scripture, you're talking about breaking it down so you can understand it and apply it to life. And there's a sense in which part of our job, our responsibility as Jesus followers in the world is to go, okay, how do I interpret what's happening, or this content that I'm intaking, or this book that I'm reading? How do I break that down so I can celebrate what's good and right, true, and then speak with hope into the areas that are still broken? That's what Paul does in Acts multiple times. In one place in particular, he's at the Areopagus in Greece. And he, rather than walking right in and saying, hey, you're all worshiping the wrong gods, you need to tear down your idols and follow the one true God, he walks in and he says, hey, he says, men of Athens, I perceive that you're very religious. And he compliments them for their faith. He's like, you guys are faithful people. He says, but I also know that you have a monument to the unknown God. And Paul says, I want to tell you about him. He's the one that your poets talk about when they write, in him we live and move and find our being. So he compliments their faith. He quotes one of their own poets and he says, let me tell you about the God that you haven't found. And then he, from there, launches into a story about how, this is the one true God. He's the real God. He's the God of all the gods, and so Paul meets them where they are. He finds something in their life to say, hey, that's good. That's helpful. And then he says, let me take that, build a bridge from there to Jesus. And let's talk about Jesus. And what happens is some people believe, some people reject him, and some people are like, hey, we want to hear more about this, which is going to be the response every single time. Somebody might believe, somebody's going to be like, I don't know, I'm not quite there yet. Let's talk further. And other people are going to be like, I don't want anything to do with this. But doesn't mean we stop telling the story of Jesus.
Yeah. I'm thinking of a quote that Louis Giglio talked about one time when he was teaching about pastoring or leading people who are quote unquote creatives. And what I mean by creatives are those that imagine, those that design, those that use their gifts to develop ideas and concepts for people. This conference that I heard this at was specifically geared towards people who work in churches.
Okay.
So creatives in the churches, how to lead creative people that are working for the church. His whole idea was, well, in order to lead creatives, you've got to inspire them. And the way to inspire them is to pull from the most inspirational things in the world. Architecture, astronomy, geology, the list goes on of what is inspiring to people, but literature, cinematography.
Find beauty, highlight the good, and tie it to the gospel.
Acknowledge where it came from.
Yeah, I love that.
It's cool. I mean, same thing with music, same thing with art. Any kind of storytellers love the idea of giving people something to hold on to.
Sure. That's what makes it memorable.
It makes it memorable.
Whatever you're creating, if you're creating in any way, like you want to create something that for whatever reason grabs the heart and the mind of people. Because somebody can, intellectually, like something, but when you tie it to an emotion, tie it to a memory, you tie it to a moment, that's where it gets sticky and stays with somebody.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to go further than the mirror to know that this world is messed up.
Sure.
Like starts there.
Yeah.
So we're all craving something.
Yeah.
We need something.
When you can offer, hope and
or just even a reality that you can jump into
Sure.
for like a couple hours a day.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this isn't what my real life.
You like to read?
I like to read.
Yeah.
I really do. It's hard for me to sit down and focus on reading, be honest with you.
Yeah.
Really hard for me to focus on reading. I think I'm learning to make time to read.
Yeah.
The problem is just like actually doing it.
Sure.
I'm in the middle of, I do read books and stuff.
You're reading the Harry Potter books now, aren't you?
I am.
'Cause you didn't read them growing up.
I didn't read them growing up.
Yeah.
I just watched
You
the
just watched the
movies.
movies.
I'm reading those right now.
You're more of a movie guy.
Well, it's it makes sense because the movies were more
They were
available.
out.
They're
Sure.
easier, and that'll probably preach in and of itself. Is that I liked a quicker, more tangible
I
result.
can get the whole book in 2 hours.
I can get it in 2 hours. I actually had this conversation, but because movies already visualize it for you, and they give you something to imagine.
Sure.
Like what's funny now is like going back and I'm reading the Harry Potter books right now is like what? Yeah. What is fascinating to me right now is that as I'm reading the books, I really wish that the book was inspiring my imagination.
Yeah. You already got the
than
pictures of the movie in your head.
the movie has already given
That's
me
interesting.
like a picture of what I'm reading.
Yeah.
And so what's odd is at least through I'm like almost done with the second book now of the series. Taking a long time, taking a real long time to read them. The first book, there were so many things in the first book that I wished were in the movie.
Yeah.
And the book was so much better than the movie.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. I want to read the Chronicles of Narnia after I finish this series.
You need to read Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. Okay.
That's good stuff. That's good
I've
stuff.
never read those. But in my reader, I like to think that I'm going to be much more of a reader than I am now. And I've read a handful of books. Like I can talk if you were wanting to talk Christian literature, I could talk that for a little while. I've read a good amount of things that have been really helpful. To be honest, for that whole conversation, I've kind of pulled away from submerging myself in Christian literature for a little while because I've seen how much more I've benefited just from reading the Bible and letting that really,
That's a great point, man.
Letting that really speak to me a lot more than what other people have to say about small things in the Bible.
Sure. I like that.
And that's been really helpful for me over the last little bit, just trying to simplify it. Let me go right to the source.
I love that.
And let me get it from the source. And I found a lot of fun recently in reading a book like Harry Potter. And in a world, where we're working a lot, doing a lot of different things, like the imagination that I get to use reading Harry Potter is a whole lot more fun than sometimes, Christian literature sometimes for me causes me to play the do more game, play the check more boxes off game.
Yeah.
The self-help kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But when I read the Bible, it's more like, nah, you just really need a lot more Jesus.
Yeah, that's good.
And you really need a bigger definition of the gospel. And that's been really helpful for me over the last little bit. That's probably a whole different conversation, honestly.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a good point though. I think there's something, the whole conversation, is what the content we consume and how it impacts our souls and like that would be the bigger conversation in which to put this. But I think it's great for us as the church to engage with the content and material outside of maybe what we normally would intake.
Yeah.
And even if it's just to know, hey, here's what's happening in the world around us. Here's what people are listening to. Here's what people are, being influenced by. I've tried to listen a few times here recently to Joe Rogan on Spotify. He's, like the number one Spotify podcast, the most listened to podcast in the world.
Yeah.
And it's helpful because what's happening in our world is everybody's being discipled or influenced, shaped by something. And, a large part of what I think in particular our job is as Jesus followers who happen to lead in a church. We want to be able to speak to people where they are. We want to be able to understand the world that people are living in and not just the Christian bubble of the world, but, where are people who are far from God? Where are they being influenced? Where are they finding their version of reality? Who's speaking into their life, and how do we translate the story of the gospel into a language that resonates and connects with them and offers them hope in the midst of their circumstances. Dude, I was at a conference recently, and John Tyson was speaking, and he was talking about how in order for somebody who is far from God to come to faith in Christ, it often takes, at a minimum, 7 positive encounters with a Christian before they're even open to the reality of Jesus. And he was talking about 2 things have to happen. One, people have to move from a sense of no knowledge of Jesus to an awareness of Jesus. And then people have to move from a closed-mindedness towards the gospel to an open-mindedness toward the gospel. You can put this on an XY axis. And he made the point. He said the way that you do that is you live credibly in front of them. So in other words, you live a life that is consistent and full of integrity, and you show that through the way that you live, that Jesus really is the center of your life.
Right.
And then he said you have to paint a picture of Jesus as beautiful so that people understand and see that he's not just a fairy tale. He's not just a myth or something that we have conjured up in our minds, but he really is, like, he's good and he's beautiful, and all the truth that we're looking for and longing for is actually found in him. And as people see Jesus as credible and beautiful, it moves them toward a state of awareness and open-mindedness to receiving the gospel. And to me, I just found that really, really helpful, when it comes to engaging with culture, understanding where people are on this XY axis of awareness of God, the no knowledge of God, closed-mindedness to God, the open-mindedness of God, and
Can I simplify it?
Yeah.
Super.
Yeah.
Like, I love it.
Yeah.
Everything makes super, super good sense. Very clear.
Translation, now it's not clear at all.
Very clear. Well, I just want to help it.
Yeah, no, help me.
4 words.
Yeah.
Like a way to give this to other people. Daily dependence on God.
Yeah.
4 words. Daily
like
dependence on God. Love all the stuff about the psychological process people got to go through to seeing Jesus, to understanding Jesus, and awareness of Jesus, and then responding to Jesus. But let's even get it way more practical than that. If you know the word, all right, Tony Evans said it like this, 3 phrases: know the way, show the way, go the way.
That's good.
That's super simple. Know the way, go, show the way, go the way.
Say it one more time.
Know the way, show the way, and then go the way.
Say it one more time. Say it one more time. One more time. One more time. You got to nail it.
Know the way, show the way, and go the way. But it's real simple. It's real simple.
I love that.
And what kind of along these same lines of conversation, if we're so weird in the vocabulary that we use to talk to people who have no clue about, like, Jesus or the church, people could totally get freaked out.
They automatically feel like they're on the outside.
Let me speak this into your life. Yeah. What does that mean?
Erwin McManus preached a message one time called "Lost in Translation," and his whole point was that, sometimes for people outside of the church world, it's like Christians are speaking a foreign language. Totally. And so the beauty of the gospel is lost in translation. The power of Christ for salvation is lost in translation because we're using words that we understand. And if you've been in Sunday school your whole life, you know and you understand. But to somebody who hasn't grown up in that environment, it's literally like speaking a different language. So that's a great take home right there. As we're living in this world of stories and movies and TV and music, how do we use a common language to tell the story of Jesus? How do we build a bridge from where somebody is to where Jesus is and help them to walk towards Jesus from wherever they're at in their life?
Yeah. I'm just thinking of the piece from scripture from James: be slow to speak,
good book,
quick to listen. It is a good book. I'm sure you like that book a lot.
I do.
But be slow to speak. Just be a whole lot quicker to ask a question to the person. If you want to know what people are into, ask them what they're into.
Sure.
Don't come at people with an agenda as if they're like some project.
Yeah, and they're not. People are not. They're not a problem to be solved. They're not a project to be completed,
and they're not your responsibility to take care of.
Yeah,
you just got to love them.
Yeah.
Be the same in front of them.
Yeah.
And then let them ask the questions to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I don't know. That's what I feel like going to a private Christian school for college after being in public high school, like not critical at all of the private Christian environment.
It was a great experience for you.
Great experience in so many ways. But one of the things that was challenging was engaging with the real culture of the world post school, because it's like wake up call. Now the world's still the world. People are still people, and you might have a way more like a much deeper, expansive vocabulary than you did for things beforehand. But all you've got now is a bunch of fancy words to say the same thing to other people. So just keep being
Put the gospel in a language that people understand.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah,
and it happens to the way you live your life.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what Jesus did. At the end of the day, that's what Jesus, he lived with deep convictions about truth and reality. And, that he was very clear on the fact that he is exclusively the way to God, but he also lived with a high level of compassion for people who were far from God. And he told stories, and he put the truth of God in pictures that people understood. And, it was fast, like watching Jesus tell stories and tell parables. The religious people got frustrated with Jesus, but the people who were far from God understood what he was saying. They followed. And I think that's the challenge on the table for us. Our world needs hope. Our world needs peace. Our world needs Jesus. And we get a chance to put the story of Jesus in language that people can understand so they can come to faith in him. So, hey, go tell the story of Jesus with the way you live your life today. Before we go, I want to do a quick shout out to all of our listeners. I still have a hard time believing that people actually listen. But we're so grateful. We're so grateful, so thankful. It's been phenomenal the past few months on this podcast journey. So thank you for listening. Thank you for your feedback. Thanks for liking these videos on YouTube or sharing the podcast with your friends. We just want to be helpful and encouraging, and it was encouraging to us. We've crossed 800 downloads of this podcast since we started it, and we're just continuing to believe that God's going to use it to build people up and encourage people, and as we've said before, maybe make you laugh so much you spit your coffee all over your windshield on the way to work in the morning.
Or vomit like James did off the roller coaster if there's something disgusting.
I got a comment on that last podcast. Somebody posted on YouTube or on Instagram. Great podcast. Shout out to James and Sam for whatever. I forget what we talked about. And then the final.
It was Ryan. Wasn't it? He told me it was Ryan Stanley.
And he said, and one unnecessarily long vomit story. And that is a very true statement.
Yeah. Well, we just want to wish you a happy Blue Flame Day. Live today with integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all you do. Send them away, dog.
Have a great Blue Flame Day.